human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan. I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer from the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. When, O Supreme amongst humans, you were born on this earth, you paced out 7 strides, then said, I am supreme in this world. To you who were wise then, I prostrate. With pure bodies formed supremely pure, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, winner of the best, Lord, to you I prostrate. With the supreme signs, face like spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. Dust free like you, the 3 worlds are not. Incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Saviour having great compassion, the Founder having all understanding, the field of merit with qualities like a vast ocean. To you, the one gone to thusness, I prostrate. The purity that frees one from attachment, the virtue that frees one from the lower realms, the one path, the sublime reality. To the Dharma that pacifies, I prostrate. Those who are liberated and who also show the path to liberation, the holy field qualified with realizations, who are devoted to the moral precepts. To you, the sublime community intending virtue, I prostrate. Homage to the Supreme Buddha, homage to the Dharma refuge, homage to the great Sangha, to all 3 ever devout homage. To all worthy of respect, bowing with bodies as many as all realms, atoms, in all aspects, with supreme faith I pay homage. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions. Perform only perfect virtuous actions. Subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teaching of the Buddha. A star, a visual aberration, a flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud. See conditioned things as such. Through these merits may sentient beings attain the rank of all-seeing, subdue the foe of faults, and be delivered from samsara's ocean, perturbed by the waves of aging, sickness, and death. Page 15, The Heart of the Perfection of Wisdom Sutra. I prostrate to the Arya Triple Gem. Thus did I hear at one time. The Bhagawan was dwelling on Massive Vulture's mountain in Rajagriha, together with a great community of monks and a great community of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Bhagawan was absorbed in the concentration on the categories of phenomena called profound perfection. Also, at that time, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara looked upon the very practice of the profound perfection of wisdom, and beheld those 5 aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Then, through the power of Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said this to the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara. How should any son of the lineage train who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom? He said that, and the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara said this to the Venerable Sharadvatiputra. Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom should look upon it like this, correctly and repeatedly beholding those 5 aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form. Form is also not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, likewise, all phenomena are emptiness, without characteristic, unproduced, unceased, stainless, not without stain, not deficient, not fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore in emptiness there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination. consciousness. No eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind. No visual form, no sound, no odor, no taste, no object of touch, and no phenomenon. There is no I element and so on, up to and including no mind element, and no mental consciousness element. There is no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, and so on, up to and including no aging and death, and no extinction of aging and death. Similarly, there is no suffering, origination, cessation, and path. There is no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and dwell in the perfection of wisdom, the mind without obscuration and without fear. Having completely passed beyond error, they reach the end point of nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times also manifestly completely awaken to unsurpassable, perfect, complete enlightenment, in reliance on the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequaled, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering, should be known as the truth, since it is not false. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is declared. Tayata, gate gate, paragate, parasamgate, bodhisoha. Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, should train in the profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the Bhagavan arose from that concentration and commended the Bodhisattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, saying, well said, son of the lineage, it is like that, it is like that. One should practice the profound perfection of wisdom, just as you have indicated. Even the Tathagatas rejoice. The Bhagavan having thus spoken, the Venerable Sharadvatiputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokiteshvara, those surrounding in their entirety, along with the world of gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, were overjoyed and highly praised that spoken by the Bhagavan. Page 25, offering a mandala to request the teachings.
Sanje Chodan Soji Chonan Chanjo Pada Dani Jasa Take Chujin Jibe Sonam Je Dola Benje Sanje Sanje Judan Soji Chanan Ma Chanjo Bada Dani Jasam Dagi Chujin Jive Sonam Ji Dola Benji Sanje Dobara Sanje Judan Soji Chanan Ma Chanjo Bada Dani Jasam Dagi Chujin Jive Sonam Ji Dola Benji Sanje Dobara 강에서 세계에서 다와는 제방이 되면은 된데 고담되라 차대로 돈년년 제선에 저배는 제제대 간제된데고 차나베 모든데 저 소와데서 제대로는 반대되라 말은 뭐지 다게 닝거를 매되죠 버리지 매고는 고선도 제용으로 제대해서 전체 선조를 뭐지 맞게반한지 여와냐 밤에 봐야 권해고네 배우라 쇼스 당도 양자 로릭이고 로릭로 다디 베이직 프로그램 가셔다 팅만이바 차고 그래서 로릭이다 슝 너마직 더사리 양자니바 차래서 이내 다 로릭 개좀 뭐 쇼지래서 배 당원에 베이직원에 데 로릭도 그래서
So again, we're now doing this LORIG, or mind and mental factors. So this is the second time we've studied this text, but it's good. It's good to be doing it again because it's very important. And within the basic, of the basic program, it's one of the most important texts.
만드멘트 팩더 인지마다
LORIG, mind and mental factors.
mental factors is 심중으로
Awareness and knows. Okay. Awareness and knows then.
뒤로 만드멘트 팩더 심다 심중으로 뒤로가
Okay. Right. So awareness and knows.
뒤로 가다 제단당서 내라야디 꾸노 다리다 로리 양자가랑서 저랑서 암저니에 나야디 양자 직시에 나랑서 드링 로리 돌려야 드링 제지 총어디니 야고 인자 꾸노 야고시다 여당가랑서 지야디 추레스 봐 말한서 저랑도 진달래 용 암전이 내 계지시 계주체에서도 상마 근데 내가 신다단 저거 말 내가 신다던 데는 하고 직배샤서야로 당 야밀라 직 모스페로 같이야로 당 야지 지수직 다조 변조단 되어요 가시야 민단 되어요로 민 수수 깨닫지 못하라 되어요로 지난디 단달롭젠데 된데 되어요 말했어 지난디 냠린 시야선 다 꿀롱 계신 부 쉬고 차고 알았어 꿀롱 로 지난도 꿀롱도 야고 직제 알았어
So, as previously, it's important to set our motivations. So, at this time, we're here to listen to this Dharma teaching and have this kind of discussion. So, when you do this activity, the motivation becomes most important. And when you do the Dharma activities, you should focus on what needs to be done. So, other than you listening, me teaching and the translator translating, there's no other work that should be done here, and therefore your motivation shouldn't be mixed with other things. You're not here you shouldn't be thinking about making money or getting any material sort of gain from this, or you shouldn't be thinking to improve your reputation or anything like that. You should be focused on learning this as a Dharma activity.
제단당에 다래 로릭데 야고직 따제 수수 셈바상보지 로릭이 나지 셈바상보지 제도가 싫어 셈바상보지 제도가 셈바상보시네 밀라야 펜도 제도가 지기 소한 로릭이야 돼 어디에 꿀론인데지 야고지 제셔서
So instead of that, you should focus thinking that you're here to study this awareness and knowers, and you should do this with a good heart. Right? This is very important. It should be done with the motivation of benefiting others. So we'll do a short meditation on that.
다 가와곰로 나라 메지디 연gia 낭베 로릭고 그다 싱비고 럽존시기 중앙이다 겨우상보인 상가와곰스.
So now take this opportunity to rejoice, recognize how incredibly fortunate we are to be able to study this mind and awareness in Noah's text. If you studied it before, to study it again is extremely fortunate. If this is the first time, you're also very fortunate.
어야 다 다단들 내리스 낭베기 슝 낭박 낭바산제베 다지 최나라야 다좀 전에 이제 최송거데 남게 생관리고 생관고도 십시기요로 다디단다딜라 개부십시기요로다 신이다 예와당 제 시원도다 오늘 지나단다 눕죠 모던 사이콜로지 도야도 이때 저기 나라다 낭베기 생각을 보나시 부타보당 띵사보당 야침보든데 요마레스로 제단디 저자디다 낭베 생각을 고 기지시고 요레스.
So when we look at the Buddhist Dharma or the teachings of Shakyamuni Buddha, this awareness and knowledge can be categorized under the category of Buddhist psychology. So within this Buddhist psychology or within this text, there's a vast amount of explanation, definitions, divisions of the mind, the awarenesses, and so forth. And if we compare this to the West, where modern psychology is developing, but thus far it hasn't reached the depths or the vastness of the understanding that the Buddha's teachings have. So this is why this text is very profound.
다 탭디 잠바보로와 잠바보디 푸조 참바께서 윤지 참바께서 겨우군에 조금 이게 제스 아니 겨우군에 조금 다 푸조 참바께서 딩고시 요래서 ngo시 똑바 통보 시고 안 푸조 참바께서게 아니 겨우군에 조금 롭존치야 로릭 롭존치야라 아니 탭디 딕브레스로 소디 겨우군에 조숨게 롭존치야레스 아니 디네가서 세르치게다 처락 제정가서 먼저 디 베진 로릭랑서 다와 툭 로체가 베스 로릭 베졌다고 그랬어. 세르치.
So when we look then at the author of this text, it's Punchok Jampagyatso. Sorry? Purpachok. Oh yeah, sorry, Purpachok.
Purpachok means this retreat name. Purpachok. Niadang Sarah, there one retreat. Purpachok retreat. And then he been retreat there, then he become yogi, and then comes reincarnation. Therefore, called Purpachok Jampagyatso.
Okay. So anyway, Purchok Jampagyatso was the teacher of the 13th Dalai Lama, and he was renowned to have cities and realizations. And in order to teach the Dalai Lama, the 13th Dalai Lama, His Holiness the 13th Dalai Lama, he composed this text in order to teach him Lorig. And since that time, it's also been studied at Serajay monastery as the Lorig, the awareness and knowledge text that they follow. And this awareness and knowledge text is studied for about 6 months in Serajay monastery.
다 단다디 당은서 조자디 셰 유지 와다 낭배기 최 탐제 주되오나 유당 유진이래로 유당 유진이 있으니 시기요레스다 낭배 찍체도 야심보도 와라 저기다 낭배 싱관서를 다두세를 낭주세를 준제세로 까마 레세로 동반이세로 람세로 네 지다 라버스면 계좌 망고 쉬우시기더라 타양 이제 수두나 니리니 유당 유진스로 주루루서나 니나를 뒤로 유당 유진스.
So within this text, we look at the two things. So we'll be following page 9 on the text to start with. So it's object and all object and object possessors are the main focus. So we'll look at object first. But all phenomena can be either categorized into the two, either object or object possessor. And this covers a vast amount of things, not only physical phenomena, but things like karma, all the various mental aspects, the three baskets, and so forth. So all of these things can be condensed down into two groups, right? The object and the object possessor.
다디 베지디나 당보 네 계저 셰단디다 곰바롭전 시나로와 곰바나로와 디 가르스나 당보 시행기 되어 파까니 시행기 되어 된데 지난데 마레스 저버자거래와 신기 되어 파까 안데 내 신기 되어 가네 네 랑그 루샤고체 대전 숨으로 아니 랑루샤네 다 랑루단 실로니 저버자와스다 데이터 곰바나 글롭징 로나리로
So because this text is studied in a monastic way, right? Like it's studied in the monastic study system. Then, first of all, the first part is to eradicate or point out the mistaken part of the others' belief systems, right? So first that's the first part of the book, and once that's cut or disproven, then the own philosophical system's view is presented. And then there's the debate after that.
다 당당한서 니버디 셰라 랑룩디 셰라스다 한저 랑룩디 셰나 디야가 도스르와 저버 잡데나 저버디 잡나니 용따라 라트에 가고도 하.
So we'll start by looking at what's said our own system, right, on page 9, because if we start with the debate, then it would be difficult for you to follow.
테니 다 당보 다 랑루 샤와데라야 이니 유진이 남자 샤와스 당보 유지 남샤 등에 제메 제일 셰기 제메로 다 유진이 남샤 셰기 니와 유진 남자 샤와데 마시나 아니
당보 유진
셰기 유디 제메 셰 유진 사우스나나 셰기
Okay, all right. So first we're going to look at the own view, and we'll start with the object possessors. So this will be page 12. And then after we've covered off that, then we'll go back and look at the object. So it's a slightly different order.
다 유진세데 갈라고 그래. 다 유진라야데 아니 다 갑데 유진세데라. 갑디 유진라야데 인지민지 셔고 고고 말했어. 유진라야데라. 아니 고 유유나 아니 콜 유진스라고 요레스. 유유나 유진스라고 요레스.
As object. So when we talk about an object possessor, it's not necessarily a mind. Anything that is said to have an object can be described as an object possessor.
다디 친이 유진기 친이 샤도와 친이나라 세워요다 란유지릭다 덴베 ngobo 란이 유진이 친이 라도와 제가 란유지릭다 덴바스네 콜라야 유유나 유유베 아니 유유베 ngobo지나 콜라 유유베 ngobo지나 베나 추즈들라 유요 말해로 추즈들라 당한서 나라 밀라 간산라 유요래 게 계제식이 요래 게 하쿠구 요래 왕의 신기도 왕의 대와 신기도 마음바 신기도 약부임바 신기도 루자임바 신기도 딩한서 먼저 미 롭종 신기도 왕으로 미 만나서라라 먼저 라고라 미디 에듀케이션 야고 요래 미디 에듀케이션 야고 요 말에 라고도 하고 미디라 유지 요와디 셰 요와지 매와 셰인데 고 밀라 아니 가서 그래 유요와 인자 아니 그 유진 차르다 먼저 미디 유진 차르와 제가 ran 지르스 때문에 뭐불라들라 제가 인지미지 시와 인고 말해와 제가 디 ran 지르스 때문에 콜라 유유베 유디 덴버스야 디 유베 유베 당 오버들라 아니 유진스라고 레스타
So this becomes clear in the definition, which it says is a thing which possesses its respective object. So then, therefore, it can be said that any like functional phenomena that possesses an object is said to be an object, or has an object is said to be an object possessor. If we take an object like the clock or a cup, they're not said to possess an object. However, we could say that a human being possesses an object because it has the ability to know. It has to know, to identify, to recognize object. A human being can be aware of past and future. We can study. Human beings can study. We can say a human being can be well educated and so forth. So this means that a human being fits the description of an object possessor. So anything that has an object is said to be an object possessor. Oh, sorry, any functional thing that has an object.
다 데라 유진 데라 예와 숨샤도 예와라 칸산체 로체 아니 주제기 다체 이게 숨다 유진샤라 유진 숨샤다 예와.
And then, as it says in the text, second, when object possessors are divided, there are three: persons, awareness, and expressive sound.
다 당부 칸산 라야 되나? 당부 칸산 유진이 나오나 칸산스나 가래, 그봐? 칸산스나 간대실라고 그래서나 칸산이 신이셔도 돼. 이 칸산이 신이래.
So then it goes on to talk about the person, and so what is this person that we're talking about? And then it posits a definition for this person.
다디 지난주로 로라 견도 망보지게 시니어 데 로라 싱고레 데다 강기 신이니데 론지적으로다 로라 싱고레스다.
So you guys have your work cut out for you now because there's a few definitions here, and it's good if you can memorize them.
다 론지체나 안에야고요라. 다 신이 가르쳐야더라서나 랑게 풍봉하고 건을 떼내다방아 풍봉하라도 풍보서야 돼. 풍보라야 돼 가르쳐나 투마 두바르바 투마 망보직 수두든 요들라 풍보스라고 그래. 알바 안델라야 풍보가스라고 해 가르쳐나 소구 풍보. 속 투마야 두는 줄라 소구 풍보. 초와 망보 두든 줄라 초와 풍보. 아니 두지 남시 풍보스제다 풍보들라 예와라와지 nga체와 투마야 풍보 투마 두바들라 풍보체. 이 풍보친이 샤나 되그래. 투마 두바들 풍보친이 샤나 되그래. 아딜라 예와 nga샤 수풍보 초야모 디지부 남시 풍보 nga샤 당일로 디직시나야고도.
So as it says here, the definition of a person is a being imputed independence upon its five aggregates. So this word aggregate in Tibetan, Pongpo means like a heap, literally. Means like a heap or a pile. And so what does this mean? It's the bringing together of many things to make this aggregate or this heap, right? So when we look at these aggregates, as it says, there's five of them. So what are they? They're form. So or you could say the gathering or the composition of form, composition that makes up feeling, the composition that makes up discrimination, the composition that makes up consciousness, and then the composition that makes up the compositional factors. So this duma dupa means multiple things gathered together. This is what's meant by this aggregate. And as we said, there's the five divisions of this. So form, feeling, discrimination, consciousness, and compositional factors, or sometimes it's non-associated compositional factors.
다 당보들라 나 수고 풍보세데다 가데레라비나 속투마 뒤선 여러와 다 수고 풍보라 만한저 타단당이랑한저 밀라 자나야고요라 만한저 류디라 샤당 타당 루고당 안틴데 망보 지야루 루체네 스드웨이당 먼저 수고 풍보들와다 디세보도 와다 디다 레라보도 와.
So when we look at this form, aggregate, so it's the gathering together of multiple things to make up a form. So if we look at the aggregate form for a human being, we can see that it is the composition of many things. So you have, this body. When we say the form, we're talking about a human body. The form of a human being is the human body, and that's composed of blood, flesh, skin, bone. Many things are gathered together to create this human form.
근데 속고디 속줍단다 속한데 이메디 저 낭배 치릭디 단닝 도임바디 탭디나로나 야고도 알아.
So if you want to know more about how this form comes together, how it's composed, what the components of it are, and so forth, then in the Buddhist science book, you can look it up in there and read about it. It explains it very clearly.
다들 초회 풍부세야 들어봐. 초회 풍부세야 돼. 네 초와스나 가르세 뇨와 세야 돼. 초회 된대로 뇨와디 초회 된제. 다 초와 두마 되버래. 초와 뇨와라 초와 대와 초와 동해 초와 땅뇨와 다 딩상하면서 배진 안다 다디 책디 템보요 말봐. 근데 이모션라디 배진 초와나를 도면도 만차 초와면도 다디 간데 디 템보디 요 말다. 만차 다 전화도 말아서 뒤로 와 스케줄에 답변나 나라 그런서 나라 지도는 나라 이모션리 되라고도 다디 뇨와 차도나 초와 차도 거래. 네 심나라 텐데 요래는 템바 차도 거래. 다 심나라 툭 뭐마지버로 버지 연구도나 아니 동해 뭐 차이다. 동해대 뇨와 차도 거라.
동나는 뇨모.
뇨모 동해 뇨모 임베 쳐야 말이야. 뇨와 다 동해라디 초와라. 동해도 초와라. 동해 뇨와 초와라. 제가 나디 가나서 수수 상무단에 요래 미시 템보면도 와데. 이나다 간다 디 뇨웨릭디게 초와 대와 초와 동해 아니 차원 연구도 장문 연구도 시분 연구도 신부 매원이나 단년보 임바다 단년보 빼망보 여러 초월로 와 렉자 잠보 렉자 주보 와 칼라 신부 칼라마 신바 추차고 추장무 다된데 뇨니 창모 초월에 저단데 도와대 야첨부 쇼래다.
Okay. So then we're looking at this aggregate of feeling. So this feeling here can be described as experience. This is the meaning of this word feeling, is experience. So we have experiences or feelings such as happiness, unhappiness, and sometimes like maybe a neutral type of feeling. Now, this word in English, emotion, is probably not doesn't exactly correlate with this word feeling, because this feeling is like experience. So we have this experience, but then we sometimes have memory, and that's something different, right? Like the trembatang Okay, so this, you have memory, that's something different. But sometimes your mind can be disturbed, right? If your mind's disturbed, and then you get this experience of suffering, that can be said to be this feeling. But maybe this meaning is not so clear.
unhappy mind unhappy
Oh, okay. So it's not, however, this word, when we say unhappy, we can say that's an emotional experience. But this is not the same as when we refer to like suffering. Suffering and this English word being unhappy, not necessarily the same meaning. So they don't exactly correlate. But so we can have various experiences. So we can have experiences of hot, cold, food, delicious tasting food, untasty food, smooth, rough. There's various experiences we can have.
어딜라야다 닝제오레 닝제오마레 양모레 제보레 링보레 통동레스타 두시 진이지도 어딜라야 아다 디레 가자 데네 디 데젠데라 네 두시 공부서 보라.
So then moving on to the aggregate of discrimination. So this aggregate of discrimination is said to be valid apprehension. Sema zinbaro.
Dishi tsema.
Or yeah, that's probably the best translation. So you can have valid apprehensions of things being good, bad, long, short, close, far, and so forth. So there's various different abilities to have these valid apprehensions or these valid discriminations.
다 벤지 남시 람나 야무도 남시에서 단대 남시 풍부사데 두바 얘기 남시들이 와 조심이 남시들이.
So now moving on to consciousness. Now when we talk about the aggregate of consciousness, we're talking about the mental consciousness of the namshi trugnangla, the yigi namshi. So of the six consciousness, this sixth one, mental consciousness, that is synonymous with the aggregate of consciousness.
다 되네 뒤지 풍부사데다 풍부실에 셈바래와 수 풍부만이 소요 풍부만이 아 뒤시 풍부만이 남시 풍부만이 풍부시도나 아니 뒤지 풍부스라고다.
So then the compositional factors or is said to be that which is an aggregate but not one of the other four aggregates is
페낭아란즈 주기 되자당 콘도 도저레 심도거와 야가데 띵인진당 아니 띵인진당 도저 닝제당 찬죽샘당 셰랍당 도저 상마 뒤지 풍부난 도래.
So this includes things like the delusions of attachment and aggression and so forth, but also has positive aspects. So things like concentration, compassion, bodhicitta. These are all the aggregate of this. The compositional aggregate.
어, 다디 풍몽하고 강릉라 때문에 딱 왔을라고다. 강릉 세대다. 아데 풍몽알라 때문에 라면도 제단디스나 베나 수메 감도들라 수기야 말아. 해서 풍몽하고 강릉라 가야 돼 어디래다.
So then it says upon any. Okay, so this word any, gangrong in Tibetan means any one, any or all of the five. So the reason this is put in there is because certain beings, such as formless realm beings, they don't have a form aggregate, for example. So they are still a person, but they don't have five aggregates because they don't have the form aggregate.
어다 때문에 딱 왜 끼우셔야 돼. 다디 신바에 디 개침보래. 디 단다 간상게 신이디 디 신이디 돌었던 삼로 신이디야 신이와 또 삼로당으로 삼로당 곰잡 삼로당 곰잡나 아니 제메 가나서 동이 된데 동이 고매하다 된데라 디베 팬하고 쉽죠르디.
So then when it says a being imputed a dependence on these five of its five aggregates, this is something we need to really first memorize and then think about and then meditate on, because it's very important. If we can clearly understand this, it becomes very useful later when you're doing meditations on selflessness or emptiness. This understanding of this definition becomes very useful.
와, 그래서 간상 담에 또라 간상사도 하고 그러와. 간상 신이디로 와다.
So if we want to learn or understand about the selflessness of persons, well, of course we need to understand what a person is, and this is the definition here.
어디라니 간상 신이지. 다들라 단다 베제나는데 다세 나세 간상세 기부세 두즈 상마다 단다 직벌에서 온다.
Okay, so then it goes on to say in the scripture, in the text, self, I, person, and being are all synonymous.
상마 직간사 직벌에로.
So yeah, they're all the same.
다들라 진신이 있을라다. 진이디체. 다 진실라 감숨 수수된지 기부라다. 감숨 감라야데 데젠라 감스고래. 데젠 감라와 감세야데 데젠들 감스고래. 데젠들라 다추 베나 코웨게 코웨 뉴주 탐제 코웨 뉴주 탐제 되나 데젠 숨난도 고래. 되베 감게 데젠직 수기 감게 데젠직 수메 감게 데젠직 데젠 숨난도 고요인자 감숨라고 그래서.
So this it goes on to talk about the illustration. The illustration of a being. Person, which is a being who possesses a basis of one of the three realms. So these realms are kind of like you could say spheres or borders or regions, regions. And then all of samsara can be categorized into three realms or regions, which is the form realm, the formless realm, and the desire realm. So that encompasses all of samsara.
다 되베 컴스나 칼라고레와 되베 컴스나 칼라고레라나 다 되바세야 되가나서 되베 되용하라바 숙다 디로 렉잘라 착바체네 되자체 되바 딜레야 아니 되바 롱체제 되니기 되제 미딜라 되베 컴체 디네세 땡딜라 되베 컴체 아니 디네베 간산딜라 되베 간산스
딜라 데나
콘조 디 롱제고다 롱카스나 되용아 숙타 디로 렉자여라 디게 딜라다 디 되자 되베 롱제고다 차싱 딘데기 네딜라 되베 컴체
알라라서
딜레데베 간산딜라 아니 디레다 되베 간산스와 디젠디 간산디 디젠 다 간산디 데세 나란드로 뉴질랜드 사자딜라 뉴질랜드 플레스로 디단 데니 미들라 뉴질랜더 시그라다 오 디나 시리다 호
So when we look at this desire realm, what is meant by that? Well, the beings of the desire realm are those who have attachment to the five sensory experiences of smell, taste, touch, sight, and sound. Smell, taste, touch, sight, sound. Right. So this, when we talk about the realm, the desire realm, this can be said to be the place. And then the beings within that place are the desire realm beings. So an analogy for this would be like in New Zealand, you say New Zealand is place, like the two islands. And then the people who live there are said to be New Zealanders. So the beings of New Zealand in a way.
다 이제 베나 수컴세의 칼라르스나 다 티당 로요 말아 건설 로아 티당 로 매비치 숙당 안에 다당 안에 렉자여와 숨이여 숨 당긴가도 다 숨래요 말아들 딜롱제니 데젠델라 수컴세로다 두슬랍샤나 코에레
So then when you talk about the form realm, they don't have smell and taste in the form realm, but they do have sound.
요래
So sound, the other three.
숙다 렉자.
So they have like tactile, sound, and visual experience.
tactile나 그래.
Lecture.
렉자. 이게 숨이요.
Yeah, lecture like. You know, the sensation of touch, basically. I think it's normally tactile.
다디네 드라메베기 애니 데젠 베트남시지고 내된 여기 데젠들라 아니 숭미 감서다.
드라메베.
다이슈네 숭메베.
Oh, 숭메베.
숭메베 다 여마다 다 소로와.
Yeah.
제단다 아니 델라야다 숭미 감서.
So then, yeah, and then the beings who don't have any form, like no sound, they're said to be the beings, that's the formless realm, or the beings of the formless realm.
Oh, 디 드롭드레워치 탄다도 도데스 되컴 수컴 수미컴 숨체와 수수 덴쟁기 기울라도 하셔서 진시 간사디 먼저 단다 디시하라.
Okay, so then we talk about these three realms, the form, formless, and desire realm, and then the beings within those realms, or abiding within those realms, are said to be the three types of beings.
다 디네 디 간사사디 디고시. 다 디네 니와디 로레로.
Okay. Then so that covers off. Is that my mic? That covers off the person. So now we look at the second one, which is awareness.
다 친이 예와치 로 양도 릭발로 친이 체로와. 릭발로 셰바다 단다 릭발로 친이 세야디 릭바세야디 짐베 튀르로. 다디 릭발로 친이 체. 다디 나네 간저 디 셰베 친이도 세시리고 셰베 친이. 디 인직민직다. 신 셴바체. 네 상노다. 다디 중에 딩모 망고 라그도디. 됐어요. 다 셰바 친이 약쇼되었다. 세시 릭바세. 과 유야세 아니 데 짐바르와다. 세 유 넘버야 세 엔디 짐바지. 다딩 알아서 상노다나 하고 그래. 지금 메도로 보잖아요. 셰 님바이나 암조나라 셰가 다디 나와 셰가 세용다. 안디 진 템포지나 마제바체 주릉보 되거다. 어디다 세시리 볼라데.
So it then talks about the definition and divisions of awareness. Two parts, definitions and divisions. So the first is the definition of awareness as a knower. Then it goes on to talk about the definition of consciousness, that which is clearer knowing. So this clearer knowing is very expressive definition, and I've talked about this many times. It clearly presents the meaning very well. So this clarity allows the appearance, and then the knowing aspect is to know, or the ability to apprehend. So we can see with something like sound. So sound first has to appear, and then there's the ability to be aware or to apprehend or to know the sound. And actually the sound, knowing this and this awareness can stay for quite a long time.
어디지? 다들이 네 유진 기친이체 간상 기친이체 아니 셰베 친이체 친이 숨도 어디 디제 숨디 아니 다리 둔다데나로 저랑서 달로 지난다 당마마 지론지 단사로 저랑서 신나야 건조 사바카시에 된다. 이달로로 신제데 제메 친이데 람상하고도나 아니야고요.
So now today we've talked about three different definitions: the definition of the object possessor, definition of a person, and then definition of consciousness. So it's good if you can memorize these three definitions. Now, many of you may have memorized it before, but for those people who are new, it's very good if you memorize it, because once you've memorized it, then you can, when you hear the words, you can easily understand or bring their definitions. What's up, Bingo?
Can you say again what senses the beings of the formless realm experience?
Formless realm. So, Zugmikam Ganzag Karinyon Yore, Zugme, Drame, Karinyon Yore.
Yig Dewa Nyongo.
So, the beings of the formless realm only have the mental experience. So, Yigi Nyamshi Chipure. So, only the experience of the mental consciousness, none of the other five.
Dewa Nyongo, Dewa.
So, it's this stainless happiness that they experience.
그래도 대화 있는데 사제 대화도 주로에 동해래.
건데 삭체기 대화. Oh, sorry, not stainless. Contaminated happiness.
동해 주로에 동해래서.
So it's still the suffering. It's still said to be the suffering of change. So not stainless, stained basically, or contaminated happiness. That is still the suffering of change.
이기 이 지고면서 요말들라. So
they only have this mental experience, and they only experience this mental bliss or happiness.
그나 난 일랑무소라고 그래. 일랑무소가 되더라. 먼저 일람나는 이 세워면서 요말와 뒤로서 뒤에서 그래다.
So we could relate it to say, like when we dream, at that time we're only experiencing a mental consciousness. So it's something like that.
네.
Shimba? Sorry, anything else?
What about the form realm?
The Zugkam, the Kari?
Sugala da yore, Rekjanyoa yore, Konzo the Dingizing Dobgi, and Chidan the Dingizing Dewara Mancha, Yongora, Tezama Dingizing Debra, Sukam dan Sumesama, Gom gave Dingizing Debra.
So the form realm has the experience of sound and the tactile sensation, but they also experience the happiness based on the concentration. So the Dratang Rekcha Chikpure Shimpa. And of course the mental one, mental consciousness as well. Disco, smell, taste. So Dratang Okay, so yeah. So they also have the visual perception, but they don't have smell or taste. Because they don't have a nose or a mouth, right? So it's like this kind of squashed up, flat, non-functional nose. It's a bit strange. So they don't have the right. They don't have the taste sensations. They can't experience the sensation of taste.
고야요 말이야. 콘솔라 칼라 고야요 말이야. 콘솔
Right.
띵이띵 세서 고라 데리다.
Yeah, because if you don't have the sensory consciousness, like the taste sensory consciousness, you can't experience. But they don't need to eat. They don't have this need to eat, so therefore they don't. Obviously, they don't need-
띵이띵 세.
yeah, they're sustained by their concentration.
기생 안조 세 시도송아 띵이띵 세서 하셔. 어디야 콘솔. 기생 세 시도송아 세 시.
Oh, right.
띵이띵 세. 예.
So we talked about the 4 types of sustenance, and they are sustained by their concentration.
아니 콘솔 데려와 레다도 띵이띵이 돼 버려. 다내 간데스 겨울에 거래서 튀어올래나. 그 군은 잔죽 셈다. 근데 타바던 얘기로 매버체 concentration 지고 곰되나 안디 겨와디 링귀어 단단한도 힌두도 저기 신의 곰니도 겨와지마 수감 수미감 겨울렌도 그러고 건조게 군론라 타와요 말에 탐지 쳔바 요 말와 매자 아니 고랑기 띵이지디기 되우다라면서 지게 네 개요 말대.
So how is it that one comes to be born in this form realm? And it's because of one's motivation. So without the motivation of bodhicitta or the wish for liberation, merely focused on developing one's concentration, then one takes rebirth in the form realm. So an example of this would be the Hindu practitioners who have this strong concentration. However, they're not motivated by liberation from samsara or to attain enlightenment. So they just focus on the concentration, and that's how you can be born in the form realm. Zugmi kam chipure?
숙수미니야.
So both the form and the formless realm.
계시 될라야 삼대 중고시 탐나 수감나je. 숙매 중고시 탐나 숙매를 겨울래노.
Okay. So
삼대 중고시 제도.
right. So
삼대 중고시 탐나 아니 겨워제마데 숙을 겨울래노. 숙매 중고시 탐나 아니 제메 숙매를 겨울래노.
if you have developed the city of concentration, then you're born in the form realm. If you've developed the experience of the city of formless, then you're reborn in the formless realm.
Adi Hindu jigo mares. I think this is not really only in Hindu. Some Tibetan Buddhism people have some regard this history and Adisha come to in Tibet at that time, and Adisha taught some yogi you need to practice bodhicitta or renunciation without concentration. Otherwise, next lap your rebirth formless realm or form realm. 이제 저지 반대 Adisha 법하게 참바던데 저런 잔주 쌤다. 아니 람님도 고마자나나 저런 게 띵이지디 겨제마. 아니 숙당 숙밀 겨링 그래 송도.
So a teacher advised some of the yogis that if you don't conjoin your meditation with bodhicitta or the Buddhist path, and you only focus on the concentration, then you run the risk of being reborn in the form and formless realm.
Oh yeah, that two way.
Any questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you.
Just the definition of an object.
Yeah.
Is still not quite clear to me because it seems to include sort of almost everything. Is that the only thing that would be included, that which is known by an awareness, would be an awareness.
Okay. So then the yogi tseni des savamudoro.
You mar yuji.
No, yogi tseni.
You tseni de gana yoro.
Okay. We'll get on to the definition of
Ale dirwa you tseni le rigba chawa. Teme tokba chawa. Le rigba chawa.
Le rigba chawa. Yeah. Ko di tetsumira kainsena. For example, cho tamchi di yure.
Re, cho tamchi yure.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, all phenomena is an object.
Yujin kona yure. Yujin kona yure, yujin re. Pena de chuzu de yure, yujin mare. Chuzu de yure.
Right, yujin mare.
Yujin mare. Da yujin de nire, yure, yujin nigare.
Right. So, all phenomena is an object, right? Even object possessors or awarenesses are objects. However, you can be an object without being an object possessor, like the clock. but something like but an object possessor is still an object, like a mind is still an
그래
object.
셰와디 니레 봐 니가 차로 셰와 창마 유제나 유니가레로라
So all minds are both. Shepherd samna.
셰와 창마 유다 유지니가레
Okay, so all minds or shepherd or consciousness, knowers. Sorry, shepherd's probably more like knowers. All knowers are objects and object possessors.
어디 다시 나 두어데 데 두어샤도 저거가
Oh yeah, there we go. Where then, for example, does I consciousness belong if not under consciousness? So this question, where then, for example, does I consciousness belong if not under consciousness? I'm going to assume this is within the 5 aggregates because it sounds like it is. So the pombonga nangla,
이기는
the yiginamshi di chikpure, right?
Yeah.
So the miginamshi kawa le. Pombonga nangla.
부모가 미기 남시라나 미기 남시들 디즈니셔라 미기 남시 조심지어라 조심디 아니 이기 남시나 이기 나도래 다 미기 남시나라 초와여라 초와
The pombonga nangla di.
부디 제단 부모에 나네 뒤지 부모 난도래
Okay.
미기 남시에 디즈니여래서 즉 남시 부모 난도래 직디 뒤지 부모 난도래서 미기 남시라 조심지어라 조심지
Dushitan ducheni.
미기 남시디 두가 이기 남시디 럼디 레다 뒤제 풍부나 로어 풍무 미기 남시디 두슬라잖아 되어 뒤제 풍부나 로어다
Dushi mara. Duche.
뒤시 말 뒤지
Duche.
뒤시 말
Okay, so when we talk about I consciousness, it's actually comes under the non-associated compositional aggregate.
어디라 뒤제 풍부나
Yeah,
로어스
it goes there, right?
딜라고마
Yeah, so
Tilama
these other consciousness like I consciousness, no consciousness, they're under the non-associated compositional factors, or sometimes just compositional factors.
신다 다라에 두어드래
Yep, another one. Why are awareness, knower, and consciousness differentiated if they are synonymous? So, lo, shepa,
릭바
rigpa, konzo, tonchig.
뒤지
Kare di some yewa yore.
디여스 말에 데 어여서나 데 데르와 베나 레당 베나 뮤직라 나라 밍숨도 아직 그래 나라 참바다지 디디짐바 베나 다저도 마샤제도 원래 밍망보다 찍 돈다 찍래 밍망보다 밍다단다면은 로 리바 셔서야데 돈다데래 베나 어디래래 고당 멘다레메지 돈다 찍버다 고알레다
Okay, so it's like many objects, one object or one person can have many different names. So Geshe-la's name is Jambatachin, Jambatachin,
디디짐바
Tenzin Jimba,
바상
and so forth, right? And so we can all have different names, but for something like this, when it's these synonyms, it's kind of like a different way of understanding the same thing. Kotong is like almost, you can't quite say different meaning, but
근데 단다데 간라서 간상 나니 그래 다다 나다 간상 기우서와 어두도 옛날 거 레레레한 치 저자담데 되지미라요 로 리바 셰와데제 된다지고 지고
so if we talk about self, I, and person, if we break it down, like even though they're synonymous, the way of understanding the same way of relating to it is slightly different when you go into it. So it's the same with this mind, knower, and consciousness.
그때 언제 낭배 베제는 데데 빼망고요래 근데 빼망고요
There's many of these synonyms presented
Bena-
in the
bena-
Buddhist text.
동니라 동니 전단된바 주니 내룩타도 시루 다 빼망고요라 동니
So
찍으라고 거사 찍으라
yeah, so it's the same. You can say emptiness, ultimate truth, tongi tandandenba kane.
아니 내룩타도
The final nature.
아니 주잉
Chuying,
아니
suchness,
시로 나내
and
망고야.
so forth. So this,
so and so
it keeps going and going, right?
내 망고야.
Yeah, there's many of them.
딜라 믹스의 명제야. 딜라 믹스의 배제나는 전직 민간남라스로. 전다 직 임박하나 민다면 돼 이거 시고.
Okay. So yeah, it's one meaning, different like names, isolates. Yeah.
어디로? Yeah, do you have question? Yeah.
I'm just making perhaps correction. Eye consciousness is surely under giving on consciousness only 5 elements, because I thought the aggregate of consciousness covered the 6 consciousnesses from eye, ear, nose,
Okay.
taste,
So-
and mental consciousness. That's in the aggregate of consciousness. So
I got it.
previously it was said it was in the nuances.
Yeah. So the pombo ngananga, the yugi pombo.
남시 풍부.
No, sorry, namshi yugi pombo.
음.
The sosem trug,
음.
sangma di namshi yugi pombo re. Morang di samba yore.
레레레 드리.
Sosem trug.
소심 두래.
Nagi namshi.
나 남시에서나 믹시게 주에야 믹 조심제로. 어디래. 당연히 바 코데오 셰르면 디 마드여도나 아니 믹딜라 니요레스 심중직당 조심제로.
Ale.
조심디 디 남시 풍문한도 그래. 심중디 뒤지 풍문한도 고.
Oh, okay. So what you're saying is correct. However, presented in a way to understand, because when you take the eye consciousness, there's two. There's the primary mind, and then there's the secondary mental consciousness of the eye consciousness. And this primary mind is in the aggregate of consciousness, and the secondary mental factor is in the aggregate of the compositional aggregate.
What is the secondary mental factor of eye consciousness?
So the
믹시고 주 초, 초야.
the feeling, the
초예요.
experience.
Oh, okay.
저 빼만 거요래. 빼만 거요. 이거.
Consciousness could have a secondary mental factor in
야, 네. 처음만 랍다. 처음만 랍다.
actually the consciousness.
야, 네 요르다. 이 군동아여로 저와 두시 sembar rekwa yile chewa de yo.
Okay, so
군동아여로.
Yeah, the
So
5
simple.
omnipresent mental factors, this feeling that always there.
요래 어디 샤워. 다 신다. Finish. Kile. Maybe we stop here. Jela de chonzo. Tare de 신조아스러워. 신이 숨도와.
So we'll stop here, but it's important to really take on board and memorize these 3 definitions. Can you get any?
육신이 신도나야 보여 간데.
And if you want to go the extra mile, you can also memorize the definition.
디들레민도. 틱슬레민도.
Yeah, it's only a wee definition. The definition of object is just a wee one. You should memorize.
다 어디 준다데 어디 콘디 곰자 제곰데레 론지다야데 체 아니 이마 로야디 다 체메 르다 체메진이로 하다 리벌르진이 세지 리버서라 리버나 체마다 체메진이다 체메여와 어디게 로샤나리 그랬어.
Okay, and then for further reading, you can continue on with chapter 2 with an incontrovertible consciousness, incontrovertible.
알라딜라 어느 레레다와디
Which I'm used to translating as unmistaken consciousness. And yeah, so keep reading on and learn these definitions and try and understand and do some analytical meditation on the meaning of these.
디마디 간데 숨들다 아날라디가데 탄티링 랍산조디 제세.
So, but particularly focus on the meaning of these 3. The analytical meditation should be focusing on the meaning of these 3 definitions that we learned today. And we'll have a discussion group next week.
디스커션도 디즈 디시컬 체신에 단다디 디게데로 아니 유진지 친이 당 아니 예와 당 풍봉아 당 풍봉아 때네 딱주 카레로 때네 딱주 카레.
Yeah. So in the discussion, you can discuss things like, well, you can discuss what is meant, what is this object possessor, what does the definition mean when we say this definition of a person and being imputed independence upon the five aggregates. So what are the five aggregates and what does this being imputed upon any of the five aggregates mean? So what are these, break these definitions down.
Tila tene takwa saya tes duling chana yago.
So
Takzu kare.
imputed independence, understanding that, tene takpa, imputed independence, understanding that is very important.
Hadi ne seshi rigba la di. Di dol duling des chana yago ra.
Discuss the meaning of clear and knowing.
Yago, wadi, tadi dir. Yeah. We stop here now.
Page 31.
Beje jonje me do dan re ra lin shi ni de gen pa de san ge xing de mi te wu wa ge zhou gu nam de xing le che pa shu
zhe cun la mei
gu
ku
ze
zi
ra
rab
den
ten
xi
xi
nan pa tin le chu chu ge pa dang lo sang tian pe zhe me sa
sun di
zhe
wei
ye
mun
men
sao
ze
ta
da
tu
do
ne
ne
gu
gyu
ji
ji
Idama guru
ra
rang
ne
ne
men de la
mandala
ga ne ya da ya
kanyayami.
mi.
Due to the merit of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of a Guru Buddha and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. May the supreme jewel bodhicitta that has not arisen arise and grow, and may that which has arisen not diminish, but increase more and more. Whatever slight positive potential I may have created, by paying homage, offering, and acknowledging my faults, rejoicing and requesting that the Buddhas stay and teach, I now dedicate all this for full awakening. I dedicate all these roots of virtue with the dedication praised as the best, by the victorious ones thus gone of the 3 times, so that I might perform the noble Bodhisattva's deeds. May the King of Dharma, Tsongkhapa's way, may the omens of obstacles be pacified, and all the conducive circumstances be complete. The wish-granting, wish-fulfilling jewel, source of every single benefit and happiness in this world, to the incomparably kind Tenzin Gyatso I beseech, may all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. Savior of the snowland teachings and transmigratory beings, who makes extremely clear the path that is unification of emptiness and compassion, to the lotus holder Tenzin Gyatso I beseech, may all your holy wishes be spontaneously fulfilled. You who uphold the subduer's moral way, who serve as the bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Manjanath's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplish magnificent prayers honoring the 3 jewels, Saviour of myself and others, your disciples, please, please live long. By relying on the 2 accumulations of myself and others in the 3 times, may the teachings of the conqueror Losang Dragpa blaze for a long time.